Today we are making siphon cake. It is silky, smooth, fluffy, and so soft. It is my favorite cake. And here is the ingredients we're gonna use today. We use egg, granulated sugar, water, oil, salt, vanilla. Today we're gonna use vanilla beans and cake flour. You don't have to add salt or vanilla to make siphon cake. So basically you can make siphon cake with just 5 ingredients, which is egg, sugar, water, oil, and cake flour. So it is such a simple cake with low cost. But just like so many other desserts, because it's simple, you really need to know the crucial points to make it successful. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm going to share all the crucial points and my tips and tricks so that you can make your own perfect siphon cake at home in your own kitchen. So let's get started. First, add yolks in a bowl. Save the egg whites to make meringue later. Add sugar and quickly mix. So after you add sugar, mix right away. So some people whip this yolk, some people do not whip this yolk for siphon cake. It really depends on what kind of result you want for the texture. I personally like to whip yolks. By whipping yolks, it contains more airs inside, it contains more air bubbles inside, which results in a little bit more fluffier siphon cake with a little bit more heat. So if you want that, you can whip yolks. If you don't whip yolks, you can taste more yolks, a little bit more richness, and because it contains less air bubbles inside, the heat is gonna be a little bit lower. So it's a slight difference, I have to say, but it really depends on which result you want. So I'm gonna keep whipping until it gets really foamy and pale in color. And thickness is not thick like mayonnaise, it's more like a hollandaise sauce, like a thick sauce. The color is pale, that means it contains more airs inside. So now I'm gonna add salt. A lot of times I like to add salt in my desserts. It really helps all the flavors become one. And as a flavor, today we're gonna add vanilla beans. I love the flavor, especially Madagascar vanilla beans. But you can totally use vanilla extract. When you use vanilla extract, how much you can add really depends on the extract. Some of the extract is very powerful, so you only need to add some drops. But some extract is not strong at all, so you can add like a teaspoon or up to 1 tablespoon. So if this is your first time, I would recommend to add less amount and taste your siphon cake and see if you like more or less and adjust next time. And you can of course add other types of extracts or flavors. Okay, so I'm gonna open up a little surgery right here. Open up, and there are lots of seeds inside. So I'm gonna scrape off with the back of the knife. And mix. And we're gonna add water. Just mix until they are evenly blended. And then we're gonna add oil. So today I used olive oil because I love it, but you can use other oils like vegetable oil or canola oil. And at this point it looks really loose, liquidity, and that's totally fine. So here is a cake flour. I like to sift cake flour ahead one time. And a lot of times I sift one more time to really make sure there is no flour lumps and so that it contains more airs all around. So after you added flour, you want to mix it really well until it gets smooth. Because if you don't mix enough, the flour is not completely blended in. And after the cake is baked and when you slice the cake, you might see the chunks of flour, which you don't want it. So clean up the side like that and don't miss any flours. Mix until they are perfectly even. So now this yolk mixture is all complete and we're gonna move to making meringue. You do not want to make meringue first and make this yolk mixture after that because meringue starts separating as it sets. Once the meringue is done, you wanna use it right away. Especially French meringue like today starts separating so quickly. The key is after the meringue is done, you want to use it right away. You want to start folding.
When you make meringue, make sure there's no oil, liquids, or any dirt attached to the bowl or whisk because they prevent egg whites from whipping up really well. Once the egg white looks bubbly like that, you can add sugar divided into a few times. And keep whipping until it gets very fluffy. This is still too soft, not ready yet, so let's keep going. Toward the end, I always lower the speed and mix for a few minutes or so to make the bubbles smaller, because smaller bubbles does not get killed as easily as big bubbles, and also the texture gets even more silky. Alright, this is done. How much you whip is very important. To check the consistency, mix like that and lift your whisk up. It is a stiff peak and very fluffy, but still smooth. Add a large scoop to the yolk mixture, and we're gonna start mixing by using the folding motion. So pay attention here. Stop when it is almost even but not evenly blended yet, so that you will not kill too much air bubbles. Now we're gonna add another big scoop, and here is a very important part that a lot of people tend to miss sometimes. Every time you add the meringue, always mix fast like that until it gets very smooth again, because the French meringue starts separating quickly even after leaving for seconds. If you don't do this, the air bubbles in meringue gets killed more easily as you mix, and just the condition will not be the best and the cake will not rise up as it should. Again, stop when it is roughly mixed and add the list of meringue. And fold right away. The speed is the key for this process. Today I used a whisk to fold them, but you can use a spatula instead also. I personally like to use a whisk for siphon cake because it blends so fast and easily without killing too much air bubbles. Stop when it is roughly mixed, don't mix all the way. And now we use a spatula to clean up the side and the bottom. Flip like that, and a lot of times you see darker colors, which means it is not evenly blended. Clean up your spatula as well and stop mixing when it is nice and even. And while the condition is the best, quickly pour into the pan. And you can use a toothpick for this, but I used a chopstick today. Mix in a swirling manner from the center to the edge and go back to the center like that, and repeat that for a few times. This helps to eliminate some bigger air bubbles. Toss like that to kill some bigger air bubbles again, but very gently so that the batter does not come out from the bottom. And bake right away. It's preheated to 340 Fahrenheit, which is 170 Celsius. And with my oven, I baked for 35 minutes. Touch the surface gently, it should bounce back and still make very slight bubble sound. Flip the pan right away, which helps preventing the cake from sinking too much, and let it cool completely. Let's talk about the pans. So today we used siphon cake pan, which is made with foil. Most of your siphon cake pan is made with foil, but sometimes you see the ones with non-stick texture or with the papers. And when you use those pans, your siphon cake tends to sink a little bit more as it cools down. So let me explain why. Once you put the siphon cake in the oven, it's gonna keep rising and rising, and it's gonna go big. After it's taken out from the oven,
oven, as it cools down, it will sink a little bit. It is totally normal because siphon cake does not contain a lot of flour. But today we contains lots of meringue with less amount of cake flour, which contains lots of glutens inside, and glutens does a job to support the body. It does a job as bones for our body. But when you use the pan with foil, as it cools down, because it's not non-stick, the side of your cake is stick to the pan completely all around, right? So as it cools down, your cake cannot sink too much. So that really helps to keep the heat of your cake even more. But with the non-stick pans or with paper pans, because it does not stick so well, when the cake tries to sink as it cools down, it just sinks as the cake wants. So the height of your cake will be a little bit shorter, just a little bit. So if you want to hold the height even more, using a siphon cake pan with foil or something not non-stick is your best choice. And also, I just wanted to mention that today we don't use baking powder. Some of the siphon cake recipe use baking powder. I personally don't add it because it's more simple, and even without baking powder, it really rises up and it gets super fluffy. Today, the cake rises up with the power of eggs, specifically because of the air bubbles in eggs. As you whip your eggs, as you whip your egg yolks or egg whites, it contains air bubbles inside, and it'll keep holding the air bubbles inside, and it just keep holding more and more, and it keep growing, they keep getting fluffier. After the cake is in the oven, those air bubbles expand. It gets bigger when the heat is added. But water or some other ingredients do its own job, its own chemical reactions, and really helps the eggs to rise up even more. So that means the meringue plays a huge role for this cake. When your meringue is too soft, that means it does not contain enough air bubbles, and the heat of your siphon cake is gonna be less. If you whip too much, your meringue gets really separated. It looks really rough and not smooth at all, and it'll be harder for you to mix into the batter later. You may see the small egg white spots all around once you cut the sponge. So what's important is make a really good meringue and use it right after, while the condition of meringue is still the best.
Now to take out the cake from a pan, I'll show two ways. With the first way, insert a solid spatula or knife and scrape off the side. You'll need to push the wall all the way as you do it so that you will not hurt the cake. But it's just my opinion, but I personally find it very difficult, especially for my recipe since the cake is very soft. So here is how I usually do it. Today I use bare hands since it's just for my family, so bear with me. Push down the edge like that and do it all the way as you turn the pan. By adding some pressures, the side of the cake slides down and comes off from the pan. Do the same thing around the center too. And flip and push the bottom like that. And push the side like that to detach the top as well.
Not slimy.
Squishy.
Squishy.
Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Is it very fluffy?
Ah.
Wow, it's very fluffy.
Nothing tastes right now.
I'm just gonna eat more.
Me too, I need some more cake. I want some chocolate. Don't need cake.
So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. I really appreciate it. Keep baking and I'll see you in my next video.